You're a student, you're in matric, you want to get distinctions. And I'm going to tell you how exactly to do that. Hey there, my name is KOKETSO, and I'm a medical student at the University of Free State. And when I was in matric, I got 6 distinctions out of the 8 subjects that I did. The other 2 subjects being a 77 and 74%. So I was quite close to getting all 8 distinctions. And for my prelim examinations, I got 7 distinctions out of the 8 subjects that I did. And if you want to know exactly how I did that, then I think this video is for you. Obviously, as a student and a matric student, to be very exact, you have a lot of goals in your mind, right? You have goals. You either want to go to provincial awards, you want to go to national awards, you want to get a bursary, you just want to get into medicine, you want to get into engineering, you want to get into law. We all have our goals. We all have our dreams. And that is what I want us to make the first point of this video, that you need to have your goals and visualize them. Because one thing that you're going to need throughout your matric year is the resilience to be able to remember why. Always remember why. Always ask yourself, why am I doing this? You need to be able to sit and see the fact that, okay, Afrikaans is starting to become difficult. School is starting to become too much. I can't study. I'm tired. I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. But you need that thing to push you. Because what I always tell people is that motivation is a myth, because discipline will take you places that motivation can't, to be honest with you. And if you remain disciplined and remain rooted to the main reason why you're doing what you're doing, then it doesn't make things easier, but it makes them a bit more manageable. Which is why it's really important for you to always have your goal in mind. The moment I sit here and I think about quitting, or I think about, let me just go to sleep, I start to think that I want to be a doctor, and there's a certain life that I want to live, there's a certain lifestyle that I want to live, I want to save people's lives, and if I decide that I'm not going to study, it's going to have a lot of implications. I'm going to be sitting at home, chilling, waiting for my grant and stuff like that. So I think making sure that you always ask yourself, what happens if I decide not to study? If that doesn't motivate you, then I don't know what will. Now, the second point is actually one of the most important points in this video. It is that you need to learn to balance all your subjects. Now, in my term 1 in matric, I got 5 distinctions. In term 2, I got 6. In term 3 for the prelims, I got 7, as I said. So it was always increasing, because I would see that this subject is the one that I didn't get distinction for. In the next semester, next term, then I'd work on it. Next term, I'd work on it. I'll put this again into perspective. In my first year of medicine, I got distinctions for every module except for 1, right? And I did six modules. So this goes to show that balancing your modules is something that's gonna help you a lot in the long run. Because to be honest, I get it, right? You might be someone who absolutely loves maths, or someone who loves physics. But think about it, if you're gonna apply for engineering, you're gonna apply for medicine, where they look at maths, physics, and English only. And then they look at your Afrikaans, they look at your geography, they look at your accounting, and all those subjects are in their 30s and 40s. There's absolutely no way that they're going to accept you. Which is why also how we always talk about, as much as you need to get those level 7s, you need to get those 90s, those what's to get into these difficult and competitive courses, you also need to get a very high average. And your average can only be high if you balance your subjects. If you get a 90 for 3 subjects and then you get a 20 for the rest, your average is not going to be over 50. So you need to be able to balance your subjects. Realize that for the courses that you're going to be applying for, so the people that you're going to be competing with, they're going to have their subjects balanced. They're going to have a fair balance. So you need to make sure that you balance your subjects if you want to get distinctions in matric. Obviously, it's all easier said than done for me to say balance all your subjects, right? Because you do have subjects like Afrikaans, in my case, was one of the most difficult, along with geography. I made the mistake in geography and I'm only realizing it now. But with Afrikaans, I was able to improve it, because in term 1, my Afrikaans was 40-something, 43, but it was 43%, but then at the end of the year, it was a distinction. So me being able to top up by just about 40% my Afrikaans, it took me working on my weaknesses, which is the point that I'm making currently, that you need to work on your weaknesses. If you can see that I'm struggling in Afrikaans, what I used to do was every single day, literally every single day, when I'm in life sciences, because I was done with the life sciences syllabus, then I would sit in life science, I'd start reading a poem in Afrikaans, or I'd look at a past paper in Afrikaans, I would listen to something. Like, I'd always work on improving Afrikaans. I'd do a comprehension, I'd do a past paper, try to understand how do these opsommings work, how do these summaries work, how does this literature work, how do you answer the questions, Tafila second, and. So constantly and continuously working on your weaknesses is something that's going to help you an awful lot, which is something that I'm also trying to implement even now, because there are certain modules that I know that I'm struggling with, and I want to try to give them increasingly more time as compared to modules that I know that I'm already doing well in, because that, at the end of the day, in the grand scheme of things, is what's going to make sure that you're able to balance your subjects and get a lot of distinctions. Now, the next point that I want to make is that you need to know yourself. That's very important. You need to know yourself. You need to know that KOKETSO is a person who studies best at night. KOKETSO is a person who studies best while listening to music. Those things, you need to know yourself, because I study, as I said, best at night and listening to music. Someone else can't study like that. I always try to study in silence, but I often can't. Like today I was in the library, but I could see that I can't study in silence, so I had to play a movie on my phone, which I was not watching, but the sound of commotion is what helps me remember. I know it's quite strange, but there are people that are like that. I mean, we're different, so you need to know yourself. Know that I'm a person who studies best in the morning, and try to incorporate that. I realized that in the matric, I realized that I'm a person who studies best between 12 midnight till like your 5, 6, 7 a.m.s, and that's what I've been doing recently, and it's been working miraculously. So always try your best to know yourself and stick to that. Because KOKETSO is doing this doesn't mean you need to do it. Because Sentimental is doing this, stick to what you know, stick to what you are and what works for you, and then go for it. Now, this point here might sound obvious, né? But to some of you, it's a shock. You need to ask for help. Ask for help. What I always tell myself is, you know what? I'd rather be a fool for a few 3 seconds and be a genius till forever. You know, if I tell you now that, hold on, I don't understand, Kanti, how exactly do we solve for X? That makes me look stupid here. But me understanding how to solve for X is going to help me get good marks and become a doctor one day. So I'd rather become a doctor my entire life by being stupid for 5 minutes than to be clever for 5 minutes and continue to live a poor lifestyle in the end. See? So what I always tell myself, funny enough, is if I ever think about, okay, maybe I'm going to enter a room, I'm insecure about how I look right now, I just tell myself, you know what? They don't buy me shoes, you know what? I'm just gonna enter. If you don't buy me shoes, I literally don't care what you're gonna say, I don't care what you do. Like, literally, I literally do not care. Always ask questions. Ask questions. Literally ask questions. Ask your friends, ask your teacher, engage with people. Ask, say, hey, there's this thing that I'm not understanding, there's this thing I'm not understanding. I always ask my classmates, I always ask my roommates, I'm like, yo, there's this thing I'm not getting, please tell me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And something about hearing something from someone, it's gonna get into your brain and solidify itself more than something that you read for yourself. So ask questions. Like, that's literally the single most important thing about this video, actually, that you need to constantly ask questions. Which ties beautifully into my last point, which is basically the previous point, but yes. Now, the last point of this video is that you need to ask questions in class. The previous point I was saying, ask questions in general. Ask your teacher, ask your friend, ask this, ask Google. If you don't understand this word, if this thing says, what's this, spermatocyte, and you know what's a spermatocyte, search it. If you don't know the difference between a spermatocyte, a spermatid, a sperm, spermatogenesis, go search that. Don't settle with not knowing, because it's going to catch up with you at some point, either in an exam or somewhere. Check Google, check your chat GPTs. People have iPhones nowadays, use your Siris and stuff like that, right? And the point that I'm making now is you need to ask questions in class. Something about asking a question in class is so powerful, because if you ask a question in class, you will not forget that answer. I promise you, because it feels like the world stops for you when you raise your hand and everyone turns and everyone looks at you, and then you ask your question. Whatever answer you're gonna get there, I promise you, you are not going to forget that answer. You are not going to forget that answer. So ask questions. If you have questions, raise your hand. Raise your hand. You'd rather be that annoying kid that asks questions and then you're going to have a degree at the end of the day than to sit there in silence, die not knowing whatever is happening. Ask questions. Ask questions. And so, thank you for watching this video. I hope these tips that I just gave you are going to be helpful. I hope that at least one of them works for you, and let me know down in the comment section what you think about them. Let me know after some time if they work for you, how they work for you, and if you have any certain video requests that you have, put them down in the comment section and I'll do my best to make sure that I get to them. But yes, otherwise I wish you all the best. Please make me proud. Make sure that you child this matric year. If you're in varsity, child this year, child this semester. If you're in grade 11, I want to see you next year talking to me about how your results went. But yeah, otherwise don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. This has been KOKETSO, and peace.